You walk around this building and everyone is so supportive and so excited about what is happening with the Fever.
The basketball world is still talking about a major statement that came out of Indianapolis after Indiana Fever general manager Amber Cox finally addressed the situation surrounding Caitlin Clark. Her remarks were far more than a typical front office response. They were direct, honest, and backed by real facts, giving fans a rare look at what has actually been happening behind the scenes. The full story is much deeper than the headlines suggest, and every part of it changes the way people view the Indiana Fever during the Caitlin Clark era. To understand her comments, it helps to go back to where it all started. When Clark was selected first overall in the 2024 WNBA draft, no one could have predicted what would happen next. Everyone already knew she had shattered records at the University of Iowa and had become one of the biggest stars in women's basketball history. Millions of fans bought tickets, jerseys, and tuned in to watch her play. The Fever were not just adding a talented rookie, they were taking on a nationwide phenomenon that brought enormous expectations, non-stop attention, intense criticism, and pressure unlike anything most WNBA franchises had ever faced. The organization understood the challenge, but living through that level of attention turned out to be far different than simply expecting it. Caitlin Clark delivered an outstanding rookie season in 2024, leading the league with 8.4 assists per game while averaging over 19 points. She helped the Indiana Fever reach the playoffs for the first time in years, earned WNBA Rookie of the Year honors, and was selected to the All-WNBA first team. Her impact went far beyond the court, setting new records for television ratings, ticket demand, and jersey sales, with Fever jersey sales increasing by an incredible 1,193%. Arenas sold out whenever Indiana came to town, and television networks adjusted their prime time schedules to feature Fever games, something women's basketball had never experienced before. Behind all the excitement, however, was a 22-year-old superstar carrying the weight of an entire league while still trying to adjust to professional basketball. Then, just as everything seemed ready to reach another level in 2025, things began to fall apart. A new head coach, Stephanie White, introduced a fresh offensive system, experienced veterans joined the roster, and expectations were higher than ever. But almost immediately, injuries changed everything. Clark suffered a left quad injury in May, followed by a left groin injury in June, before she had fully recovered. As she prepared to return, she suffered another setback with a right groin injury on July 15th, forcing her back to the sidelines, where fans watched game after game as she could only support her teammates in street clothes. Fans grew frustrated, critics became more vocal, and rumors about Caitlin Clark's health, the team's communication, and what was really happening inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse spread across social media. Then, on September 4th, Clark posted a message that immediately caught the basketball world's attention, confirming that her season was over. She admitted she was deeply disappointed, ending a year in which she had appeared in only 13 games. While many focused on the announcement itself, an even more important message came from Indiana Fever general manager Amber Cox. Speaking during the team's exit interviews, Cox made it clear that Clark had done everything required to earn a return to the court. She said no player worked harder during rehab and that no one wanted to get back on the floor more than Clark. Her comments sounded less like a public relations statement and more like the honest words of someone who had watched an athlete fight through a difficult recovery every single day. Cox also explained that Clark spent hours training in an effort to return, but the organization ultimately decided there was not enough time left in the season for a safe comeback. She emphasized that Clark's long-term health would always come before any short-term return. However, Cox's most talked about remarks were not about the injuries themselves. They were about what comes next, and when reporters asked about the future, she answered with complete confidence. Amber Cox did not speak in vague terms when discussing Caitlin Clark's future. She confidently told reporters that fans would see Clark reach an entirely new level when she returned in 2026, saying she believed the best was still ahead. That confidence was backed by Clark's performance, even during an injury-filled 2025 season. In just 13 games, she averaged 16.5 points and 8 assists per game, earned her second straight All-Star selection, and remained the biggest name in women's basketball despite missing most of the season. Cox's message was clear. Clark had not yet shown everything she was capable of, and the rest of the WNBA should pay attention. But Cox also highlighted something even more impressive than Clark's talent, her leadership. While many injured stars step away from the spotlight, Clark stayed fully committed to her team. She traveled on every road trip, stayed engaged during every game, constantly supported her teammates from the bench, and remained a vocal presence in the locker room. Cox praised her as an outstanding teammate and leader who embraced the team even when she could not play. Veteran guard Kelsey Mitchell, who carried more of the scoring load by averaging a career-high 20 points per game during Clark's absence, also defended the team's cautious approach. Drawing from her own experience after undergoing 11 surgeries, Mitchell explained that returning Clark only after she was completely healthy was the right decision. Even while sidelined, Clark's leadership continued to shape the team's culture, and the strong chemistry inside the Fever's locker room became one of the organization's greatest strengths. Teammates often spoke about their close bond, including the friendship between Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull, and Sophie Cunningham. While players also shared how Clark stayed involved by going through pre-game routines with Aaliyah Boston even when she could only watch from the bench. Indiana Fever president Kelly Krauskopf revealed that before the 2025 season, the team's young core made one request to the front office, asking them to protect the strong culture they had already built instead of chasing a high-profile star. Their message was simple. They wanted to keep the locker room united. That kind of attitude reflected a team that believed in its chemistry and wanted to preserve it. Despite that, outside speculation continued to grow. In late 2024, Hall of Famer Cheryl Swoops claimed during an appearance on Gil's Arena that some players were uncomfortable with the attention surrounding Caitlin Clark and suggested there were serious issues inside the Fever locker room. Those comments quickly spread across social media, fueling weeks of debates and online speculation. However, when asked for evidence, Swoops acknowledged that she was not inside the locker room and could not provide first-hand proof, and no Fever player publicly confirmed her claims. Later, during a March Madness broadcast in April 2025, Caitlin Clark directly responded to the rumors while appearing alongside Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. Addressing the speculation herself, Caitlin Clark later responded to the rumors by saying that people often think they know what happens behind closed doors, but only those inside the Indiana Fever organization truly understand the reality. She suggested the outside noise had more to do with public perception than with what was actually happening inside the team. As the 2025 season unfolded, Indiana's performance without its biggest star spoke louder than any rumor. The Fever captured the first WNBA Commissioner's Cup in franchise history, defeated the Atlanta Dream in the opening round of the playoffs, then pushed past the Las Vegas Aces in an overtime victory during a winner-take-all Game 5 in the semifinals. They finished just one win away from reaching their first WNBA Finals in more than a decade. Throughout that playoff run, Clark remained fully engaged from the sidelines, calling out defensive assignments, encouraging teammates, and celebrating every big play as if she were on the court herself. Amber Cox's praise of Clark's leadership was supported by everything the team accomplished. The Fever showed resilience, unity, and confidence even without their top player, proving that her influence extended far beyond her statistics. Looking ahead, the organization is aiming for much more than a healthy return in 2026. Under Amber Cox's leadership, the Fever believe they have the foundation to build a championship contender for years to come. Their plans became even more important after the WNBA and the Players Union completed lengthy labor negotiations in early 2026, leaving teams with a much shorter offseason. To prepare for the future, the arrival of the Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo through the WNBA expansion draft forced teams across the league to reshape their rosters. And although the Indiana Fever lost 2 players, Amber Cox remained calm and focused. From the end of the season through every roster move, her message never changed. Keeping Kelsey Mitchell in a Fever uniform was the organization's top priority. Cox repeatedly told reporters that re-signing Mitchell came before everything else. With Mitchell expected to return alongside Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, who were already under contract, Indiana believed it had one of the strongest young cores in the league. Excitement around Clark continued to grow beyond the WNBA when she joined Basketball Night in America as a special contributor alongside basketball legends Carmelo Anthony, Vince Carter, and Tracy McGrady. Amber Cox celebrated the announcement on social media, saying the broadcast would be both entertaining and insightful while expressing her support for Clark. NBC executive producer Sam Flood went even further, describing Clark as one of the biggest names in all of basketball, not just women's or college basketball. Even before the 2026 WNBA season tipped off on May 8th, Clark was already appearing on major national platforms. When asked about Indiana's championship chances, she confidently said the Fever expected to be the favorites to win the title. Clark admitted that the expectations created extra pressure, but said that was exactly the kind of challenge the team welcomed because of its talented roster, coaching staff, and strong support system. After spending nearly an entire season watching from the sidelines, Caitlin Clark entered the offseason with even more determination and motivation than before. Every game she missed seemed to fuel her desire to come back stronger, and Amber Cox's confidence reflected exactly what she had witnessed behind the scenes. That is why many around the WNBA are paying close attention to Indiana's future. Looking at the full picture, Cox was not simply trying to reassure fans or respond to criticism after a difficult season. She spoke with conviction because she had seen Clark's work ethic firsthand, watched her handle constant attention, overcome injuries, ignore outside rumors, and continue leading her teammates even when she could not play. Those experiences only strengthen Cox's belief that Clark has not yet reached her full potential. That confidence is shared throughout the organization. Her teammates believe in her, the coaching staff has expressed the same confidence, and the front office fully supports that vision. Now, with a healthier roster, greater experience, stronger chemistry, and the lessons learned from a challenging season, the Indiana Fever believe they are ready to take another major step in 2026. The biggest question is whether the rest of the WNBA is prepared for what could be coming. Because if Amber Cox's belief proves correct, the version of Caitlin Clark that returns in May 2026 could be unlike anything the league has seen before. Teams that doubted the Indiana Fever may want to rethink their expectations. Fever General Manager Amber Cox recently shared honest comments about Caitlin Clark, giving fans a rare look at what has really been happening behind the scenes. She explained that drafting Clark with the #1 pick in 2024 brought far more than a great player. It brought huge attention, pressure, and expectations for the entire organization. After her record-breaking college career at Iowa, Clark entered the WNBA as one of the biggest stars in women's basketball and backed it up with an impressive rookie season, averaging 19 points per game and leading the league in assists. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more updates.